Hi, my name's Tim McPherson. This is Sussex Angling Media, and we've got a little video here that we shot the other day when we were Plaice fishing out from Eastbourne. We were using one of these little things, which is it's an underwater camera. Fascinating little thing, completely waterproof with a little chip inside it. Turn it on, attach it to your line, and what we did is we attached it to a piece of shock leader and a kind of rotten bottom, I suppose, although where we were fishing it really wasn't very snaggy. And then we attached it to one of these, a spreader with our bait on it. I was a bit uncertain about how this would work. I didn't know whether the light quality would be poor, whether any fish would show up, or whether I'd got the focal length correct, because actually the first time I did it I attached it straight to the spreader and it didn't work properly. But I think you'll find this quite fascinating because it shows very clearly some interesting behaviour from Plaice. Some of it we knew already and others maybe not, and hopefully it'll give you a good insight into how these fish are feeding on the bottom. I hope you enjoy it. Let's have a look. Now there you can see the spreader on the bottom. A bit of a heap actually, because at that point the tide was pretty weak and it wasn't really pulling us along very much. And that affects the fishing, of course, as we all know. Now there you can see there's a Plaice sitting on the bait. He's just sitting there. Doing nothing. And there you can see I stilled it. And he's clearly just sitting there. He hasn't got the bait in his mouth, he hasn't actually taken it, he's just sitting there with it. And then eventually I think something scares him off or he goes away, decides he doesn't want it. Now we've got a bit of drift and you can see the way that the baits are working. What I found interesting was that the blades, I assumed that they would go around quite rapidly, but they don't seem to at all. Anyway, they are fluttery rather than spinning, which I think is probably better. Anyway, here we go. You can see here he comes out of the sand. Yeah, he's got very curious. He's very persistent, this one. There he goes, look, he's seeing it and he's thinking I'll have some of that. And of course, the minute you move the bait, he's off, he likes that. It doesn't frighten them. Look, there he's got it, he's thinking, right, I'm having that. Ooh. But actually, I don't think he was properly hooked, this one. And I didn't really know whether it was on or not at the time. I could feel something, but I think it's quite small. As you can see, he comes off pretty quickly. Anyway, back down on the bottom here. You can see the rig's very clear. Now here's two that turn up, and this is very interesting because the small one takes the bait, and the big one seems to be following the other one around, which is very, very curious. He definitely wants to have a go at the other one, but I think he feels that the bower spreader's in the way. So it goes around the other side, gets frightened momentarily, then he comes back. And that is quite a small one on the left-hand side, and I didn't really know I had it on at the time because the bite happened, but nothing seemed to be there. So I dropped it back down, which is what I quite often do. Back comes the Plaice. He's the bigger one. It's difficult to say how big he is. Probably, I don't know, £1.5, £2 maybe. It looks like he's most of the width of the spreader, which is quite a big fish. Anyway, eventually the kerfuffle with the other one puts him off. He just gives up, thinks it's not worth chasing. Until, here he is again. In fact, what he'd done is I think he'd got out of the way. Anyway, he's going to settling on it, he's thinking I'll have some, and then he changes his mind. There's obviously something not right about it. But then, the other one, that wasn't actually hooked. Here he comes again though, back down the leg goes, and he's back again, look. Very interesting. The camera is constantly moving, which is really irritating because it's pivoted on two swivels. You can see there, a fish grabbing the bait and rushing off, hit and run job. Those are those big rattly bites we get, and nothing's there, I think. And there's been a lot of that this summer, I've noticed. They've been snatching. Here's another one, look, pops up. What's interesting from this also is they don't seem to be coming from, here it comes up, whoomp! That's incredible. He actually followed the bait off the bottom to grab it. In the end, I didn't catch him, I don't think. He didn't take it properly, but Incredible piece of footage. So the camera's pivoting, and it does, because it's set on two swivels at either end, and of course you're dragging it along, it's in the tide. And I apologise for the nature of that. And here's another one, look, he's back again, look. They do pluck at them quite often. I mean, I was tipping these with prawns, and prawns seems to really make a difference. And they were kind of plucking it off, but he took the prawn off, and then he came back for the rest of it, which was interesting. He wasn't going to give up. They're quite persistent, and that is interesting. And I suppose in a way we must, use that future reference. They're not timid at all. Doesn't seem frightened by anything really. There you go. He's still there in the top corner of the picture. There you go. In he comes. Whoop. I think this one. There's another one, and then of course another one turns up. If you look at the top, he pops up. All the commotion caused by the first one, constantly coming back, is obviously interested other fish. And that one, we landed. He's in the freezer, that one. Another one. Here he comes. You see, they come from all directions. I always thought that you'd drag it over the top of the few fish and then they would react, but actually they're coming from a wide range. If you look at where they've come from, these fish, they're all round the clock. There's another one. Look, again, he snatched at it and we didn't get it. Terrible, terrible fishing. There he comes. He's back again. That same fish. He's back. He's not giving up. This is a pattern that I've seen, that they don't give up. They keep going. It'd be nice if these fish were £5, but sadly not. Most of them were pretty edible though. There were a few very small ones that we caught, but most of them were fine. Interesting, very interesting. I mean, you can see where we were. It's very, very clearly very sandy. A bit of broken shells and a few rocks here and there. But it's one of the many areas around here that's called the Shingle Bank. And by around here I mean Eastbourne, Bexhill and Hastings. This marks about 5.5 miles off of Bexhill, Hastings area. Very, very good place grounds. I mean, it doesn't look like there's much food there, does there? But there must be something there. Crabs, prawns, which is probably why they're going for those prawns. Even though they're very tenacious. And there's another one that turns up. Here's another one that ended up in the freezer. There we go. He's back again. They seem to have that pose where they're sitting almost ready to strike on their fins rather than flat on the bottom. They seem to prop themselves up on their fins. There's another one who ended up in the freezer. Oh no, we lost him. He lived to fight another day, but it went straight back down again, and there he was still there, and he still had it going. This is something, again, you keep seeing it in these videos. Fascinating stuff. We are planning to do some of this with other fish species, bass, hopefully, certainly bream. But of course, the problem is if you're fishing over any kind of ground that's got snags on it, you're going to lose these things. So we haven't worked out exactly how to do that yet without losing the camera. There you go. And here's a fish coming up to the net. There you go. Lovely underwater shot. Fantastic.